Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to take a look at the major astrology of August 2025 as the 8th month of the year is here and it is bringing in some big astrology. So in today's show, we're going to discuss more of the broad strokes of August. And just to give you a little behind the scenes information here, before I do these monthly podcasts, I sit with the energy of the month and tune into what are we welcoming, what are we working with, what is rising in our own consciousness at this time, because every month is useful for us in tracking our own experiences. Our souls don't need a month to look at something or to plan ahead, but our humanness does. It assists us in understanding potentials, what to expect, the themes, and how we can make the most of these universal forces. So when I was tuning in to August and looking at some of the major transits of this month, it became quite evident that this is going to be a very strong Uranian month, very much associated with the energy of Uranus in Gemini and Uranian developments. Those will be the shocking, exciting, progressive energies that Uranus brings in, as well as the sudden shifts, switchbacks, backtracks, and quantum leaps that only Uranus can make, especially in Gemini. So as we go through this month, I will be touching on the main astrological aspects and changes, but overall, Uranus energy is strong throughout August. And I'll explain why here in just a moment. But what I also wanted to do is set up how we move into August, because it directly relates to that Leo New Moon that was opposing Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. We're going to have two more of these oppositions in August. So the Leo New Moon was at 2 degrees of Leo on July 24th and required you to face a fear. And in order to have a new start, which is the new moon, the fear needs to be seen and addressed. And it needs to be done so with brutal honesty and truth. And the opposition can make it feel it's out there, that it's someone else, it's another entity or person, it's a situation outside of your control. But when you really understand the deeper gifts of astrology, the astrology chart is a whole circle. And that whole circle is you. And so there is something within ourselves that we are meant to see in a new light as August unfolds. And we're meant to face those fears, hidden truths, repressed parts of self that are really uncomfortable, especially if they've been established as a pattern or routine in your life, which is the case when we're dealing with the fixed signs. So we are being invited to address whatever that monster is for you, whatever that fear is that is holding you back from the new start that is going to uplevel you in some way. And this is where facing the fear is the portal of growth. This is where understanding what you've been maybe wrestling with or feeling a power struggle around is meant to be used to your advantage, is meant to be something that you recognize as a catalyst for your own soul growth that can take you higher into a new vantage point and reclaim your energy at a higher level. But that doesn't mean it's easy or comfortable or even something we want to do. But because of the intensity of that Leo New Moon, what unfolds in August is going to present you with new solutions, approaches, and understandings that can help you get to the heart and the root of what this core fear may be for you. So we're doing shadow work. And it's interesting because how I'm seeing this presented energetically is that it could feel like you're descending, that there's a descension process here. And yet at the same time, I'm seeing a second spiral that's leading up. So there's these two spirals interacting, one descending, one ascending, and they're operating at different speeds. And so the descending spiral can feel like it's long, slow, painful, intense, and that would be the Plutonic descent. But then the ascending spiral moves very quickly and has an accelerated speed of growth attached to it, where you're actually rising up much faster and going higher because of the descent. I was seeing our DNA spinning as I said this as well. And so that tells me we are working at such a core energy level of our being that it can be not only intense, emotional, and deep, but we don't understand it all. And maybe you're trying to grasp a story or call in the details or help me understand this, but this is not mental work. This is not meant to be something that you logically or rationally understand. Rather, this is deeper soul level energy work that's taking you into more of your wholeness to repair. I'm hearing that word repair, which could feel quite comforting because it looks like the repair is happening with the higher frequencies of love, compassion, acceptance, joy, peace, that we're meant to be calling in more of those energies into parts of ourselves that we haven't fully recognized. And so you could be doing a soul journey this month. In fact, you could feel like you're journeying back or even journeying forward into other places in your soul's experiences to repair what Pluto in Aquarius is requiring us to powerfully face. And even though that Plutonic agenda can feel very challenging and difficult, the higher intention is greater empowerment so that you walk forward feeling and owning a permanent shift. And again, that's part of what's going to unfold here throughout August. Maybe you're getting into the next level depth of a theme that's been really strong for you here in 2025. And the reason why the theme would be strong is because this initial opposition with Pluto in Aquarius started when Mars was retrograde in Leo. And we had those two oppositions in early January and late April with Mars in Leo up against the intense evolutionary pressure of Pluto in Aquarius, showing you where you didn't want to change. You didn't want to do something. You didn't want to face a truth or see something in yourself, because that Leo energy brings us back into who am I today and brings us into how we are operating, how we feel powerful and confident and strong in our gifts. Also, where any of that has been overdeveloped, how it's been too much and exaggerated, thinking and perceiving, well, I'm above it all, I can't be touched, nothing can harm me. And then the opposition from Pluto brings in an ego death. And so the ego deaths are such a beautiful gift from a soul perspective because they allow you to see more of what you're capable of, not just what you are grasping onto or owning in this current reality in this lifetime. So ego deaths are a part of August, and it could feel like there is collapsing or crumbling energies within or around. And this is a beautiful time to welcome these changes as beautiful confirmation of your growth, that you're busting through whatever those limitations have been, and that this is a month of allowing yourself to feel stronger internally. So these are some big themes here of August. Now, as the month begins, you could feel like you're in that intensity still of that Leo New Moon, where you're meant to see something that is no longer needed going forward. It's not going to be a part of your next chapter, but you have to face it and deal with it. Also, as August begins, we have 5 planets in retrograde: Mercury in Leo, Saturn in Aries, Chiron in Aries, Neptune in Aries, and Pluto in Aquarius. So these 5 planets are retrograde in signs that are bringing us back into who am I now, wanting us to be more intentional and courageous in owning a new sense of self that could be arising for the first time ever, not only in this life, but in your soul's experiences on this planet. Yes, it is that big. And I know I've discussed this before, and I don't want it to sound like hyperbole. And I know there's a lot of sensationalism out there, and there's a lot of ways that information can be communicated that is jarring, and it's meant to get your attention. But what I want to offer is a soothing understanding that you are ready for this, and multiple parts of our energy are all needing to up level at the same time. So it's not only feeling this maybe emotionally or physically, it's your nervous system adapting to these new parts of yourself. It's your immune system up leveling. It's your mind expanding to have space for these new understandings. It's your auric field. It's your spiritual self. It's all these beautiful systems that compose you that are each doing their own up leveling. And I feel that in August, we're going to sense which ones are good, solid, strong, and then which ones need more care, attention, and support. In August, we're going to need to be very intentional with how we regulate ourselves, because I'm seeing the energy operating at full blast and then full stop. A sense of, I'm going to go forward. There's support. There's a lot driving this forward. It's almost like the energy comes in and goes to 100 really quickly. And then there could be that fast braking or an intentional pause in order to catch up with the developments and what has progressed. So in August, make sure that you're giving yourself adequate time to adjust to what you are up leveling, because this could explain why you are wiped out on the weekends, or why you have nothing left you could even possibly complete or focus on by Wednesday. I'm feeling like as we go into more of the second half of this decade, we are moving further away from our typical daily structures and our relationship with the clock. And we are learning how we are these powerful energetic beings that can work with the bending of time and request support for when you need more time for something or less time for something. And I believe this is one of our multidimensional skills that we are practicing and owning, especially throughout this year, and that it's something that you might be noticing that shows up for you. That when you're really in a place of enjoying something, that it seems like the time just stretches on and you get to relax into it and fully experience it. Then there could be times when you need the clock to tick faster to get through something. And if you practice that more regularly, you might be surprised at what shifts for you. So this is a month of looking at how you are working with the concept of time and the calendar. And this is also related to the Uranus and Gemini themes of the month. So getting to that, the reason why Uranus is a strong player in the month of August is because throughout the month, Uranus shows up to liberate and awaken us at a deep core level that is meant to redirect you to what you really want. Not what you think you want, not what you think you can have, or even what is going back and forth in the mind. But this Uranus in Gemini is blasting in with sudden revelations and jolting changes that your soul is ready for. In fact, your soul could be sending these messages to your humanness, totally interrupting your chicken curry, and you're realizing this is important. This is something I'm not meant to ignore or downplay. And so here's how I see this Uranus and Gemini energy playing out through August. On August 6th, Mars enters Libra and begins a dynamic dance with the outer planets. And the first direct aspect that Mars in Libra makes is a trine to Uranus in Gemini, before moving on to oppose Saturn and Neptune retrograde in Aries, and then trine Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So as this Mars moves into position here in Libra, which is a sign that Mars is associated with as being in his detriment, meaning he isn't as action-oriented. This is a Mars that can avoid conflict, doesn't go for what he wants, needs to talk about it, discuss it, weighs the pros and cons, and wants to check in and to ensure that many people are being heard and potentially satisfied with whatever directive he initiates. Now, what happens is that Mars moves into this air grand trine, and it's electrifying what he needs to change and see differently, because this air grand trine brings in new concepts, understandings, choices, and perspectives that have been floating in the ethers, if you will. And now we have a solution, idea, or direction that's presented with the air grand trine, and Mars needs to make a more determined choice that opens up pathways that are more evolved and more passionate. And this Mars, because there's an opposition to both Saturn and Neptune and Aries, there's also a kite configuration here that is created, and the apex of the kite involves both Neptune and Saturn and Aries. So here we have the early degrees of air signs and the early degrees of Aries in your chart, showing you a cosmic arrow of growth to move towards. Even if you are stuck in the mind or holding back because you're weighing the potentials, there is going to be, I'm seeing it like a slingshot here, of movement that's going to unfold, especially as we go further into August. So it's that Mars entering Libra that trines Uranus in Gemini, trines Pluto in Aquarius, that is setting up something important for you to understand and be ready to move towards. This energy unfolds August 7th to August 10th. And also during that time period, we have the Aquarius Full Moon, ruled by Uranus, occurring at 17 degrees of Aquarius in your chart. And that Aquarius Full Moon is also activating these new perceptions and understandings that are coming into your awareness that could feel like, I'm going to say, popcorn moments, where you're just almost shocked at what you're realizing or seeing. And I'm getting the visual of maybe even feeling like you're standing in the middle of corn popping open, creating popcorn in a frying pan in August. It's standing in the middle of all these things suddenly arising, shifting, sparking new understandings in you that also bring up how you deal with change. Because August isn't going to feel stable. It isn't going to feel like you can just be where you are and allow yourself to stay stagnant or do what you've always done. In fact, it's the opposite, because that's part of this bigger cycle that we're in here in 2025, is that movement is essential. Change is required. We are being blasted out of who we've been in order to fully move into more of these higher versions of ourselves. And that growth is uncomfortable. And August is going to be sparking cosmic messages, bigger revelations, and perhaps even those deep, uncomfortable realizations that your soul is ready for you to face and look at. So this can feel very personal, of course, but because there's so much movement in August, you're going to be presented with the next steps, new information, and important choices that help you move into what is next. So then on August 11th, Mercury stations direct at 4 degrees of Leo, and this Mercury is basically opposing that Pluto retrograde in Aquarius at 2 degrees, facing a fear in your mind, looking at your own mental patterns, habits, internal loops that are blocking you from an important area of growth. And this Mercury opposing Pluto brings up more of our fears and more of those shadow expressions that are right on time to see in ourselves. So there's brutal honesty here and understanding the power of the mind as it operates off of past situations, previous fears, and limited knowingness. This reiterates the energies of that Leo New Moon that I previously mentioned, where now we have the mind going through some kind of programming death. And as Mercury stations direct, Mercury moves very slowly, and there can be deeper contemplation here. Overthinking is highly present. There's more of an emotional charge with that opposition from Pluto. And yet Mercury is going to be receiving support from Mars in Libra, through a sextile. And this is going to be a sextile that unfolds starting with Mercury station direct towards the end of August. More specifically, it goes until August 22nd. And so it means that we're going to have new ways of assessing the truth of a situation. Pluto wants to bring you into a truth, and maybe it's hard to look at or intense to feel. Again, it could be something that you've avoided and pushed away. But this particular Mercury stationing direct on August 11th is being supported by this Mars in Libra. And there's going to be more of that balanced understanding, the ability to objectively analyze and assess what it has been for you, whatever that fear has been, whatever that truth has been. And then Mars also helps to move it forward. Mars in Libra can bring in the right person to speak to about something or to share what's on your mind. Mars in Libra is also a great listener, so you might find yourself on the receiving end of other people's deeper truths and understandings or what they've been struggling with, because the opposition to Pluto brings up a struggle that we want to figure out. In fact, that's what the mind does. That's what Mercury is about. And Mercury could realize, I've had too much pride, I've been too confident, I've been too self-involved. That Mercury in Leo is reassessing, how am I using my true power and how am I honoring what I really want and need? And it's only by facing this truth and fear that Mercury understands, I'm ready to do this differently. I'm ready to shift this for myself. And the support from Mars in Libra is going to bring in objective understandings. So this can help with detachment and not taking something so personally, and also not being too hard on yourself. Keep that in mind in August. Like, we are human. We have our own weaknesses and vulnerabilities. There's things that we're always learning and we want to do better, but understand that if it's for your best and highest good, the solutions will present themselves and there can be greater ease in the growth. So basically, don't be too hard on yourself if that's what's been coming up, especially since the Leo New Moon and as these planets continue to oppose Pluto. Now, also on August 11th, we have two other important transiting aspects occurring on the same day. Venus will be conjunct Jupiter August 11th at 14 degrees 3 minutes of Cancer. So you want to identify where you have 14 degrees of Cancer in your chart, because Venus conjunct Jupiter is a feel-good energy. This is going to bring up those good vibes, good feelings, connection, harmony, love, comfort, ease, and growth. In Cancer, it's a little bit more private and internal. There can be heightened sensitivity, heightened emotional understanding. With Jupiter being the amplifier, you might also connect to your own wisdom around your empathic abilities, how to honor, accept, and love your sensitivities, how to be aware of the power of emotion in your life and what you pick up in your environment. Overall, this is a feel-good day, but keep in mind that it is more private, personal, and introverted, and it certainly focuses on self-care. Since Cancer is where we understand that valuing our feelings and what we need is essential, and also what we are responsible for, that self-nurturing that we are responsible for. So again, that happens on August 11th. And then on the same day, we have another strong aspect with Uranus. Saturn retrograde in Aries sextiles Uranus in Gemini at 1 degree 12 minutes. And this is the first time they are in an exact sextile, which is a big deal because here they are in direct alignment through the support, ease, and growth of a sextile. Saturn is retrograde in Aries, so we are contemplating the new starts, new identities, checking in with ourselves. Is this what I want? Is this truly for me? It can bring up more questions, of course, but that sextile from Uranus and Gemini is bringing in those zingy, zappy ideas and understandings that awaken us. And so I feel that with August 11th, there's a sense of you're getting a new understanding of what you're becoming, how you're growing, and that there could be some positive insights and feedback that arrive that just feel like they're supporting you at a heart level, at an emotional level, at a mental level. And even from the universe, you could have some cosmic communications and downloads that affirm you're on the right track. This is what has your name on it. This is the direction to go. So Saturn in Aries sextiling Uranus and Gemini can open your eyes to what you didn't see before, whether that is in yourself or simply in the new energies you're feeling and sensing. But this has a positive, supportive effect on what we're learning about ourselves. And this particular aspect is one of the reasons why Uranus is such a powerful energy here in August. And of course, I will be covering these energies more completely and fully in the Wednesday podcast episodes. So we'll keep discussing this and I'll go a little bit more in depth. But this is the overview of the month to give you an understanding that August is going to be a month of awakening to more of who you're ready to become, and that you're going to have new concepts, perceptions, ideas, and progressive ways of understanding what that can be for you. Now, as we move into the second half of the month, we're going to have the Sun enter Virgo August 22nd. And Virgo season is going to be exceptionally big this year. The Sun enters Virgo 4:34 p.m. and then within 12 hours after the beginning of Virgo season, we have our first Virgo New Moon August 23rd at 2:07 a.m. Eastern Time. And this Virgo New Moon begins eclipse season. That's because 2 weeks later, September 7th, we're going to have a Pisces lunar eclipse. So the eclipse energies really start rolling in here as Virgo season begins. And not only is it the beginning of eclipse season, but we're going to have 2 Virgo new moons this year. And that's because the second Virgo new moon that will come about on September 21st is going to be at 29 degrees of Virgo, and that will be a solar eclipse. So here we are. Virgo season is showing you the changes that are essential for you to make in your life on a daily basis in order to move forward and up level in your life. The Virgo energies are what you need to be willing and able to look at realistically and state clearly, this is not working for me. This is not healthy. This does not serve me. This is not giving me energy. I am drained. I am doing too much for others. Too much of my energy is going outside of myself and what I need. I'm ready. And in fact, it's right on time for you to understand what needs to be adjusted on a daily basis in order for you to thrive. Now, as the Sun enters into Virgo, and we have this first Virgo new moon, August 23rd, August 24th, the Sun in Virgo squares Uranus and Gemini for the very first time. And this is where we have, again, those blasts of insight from Uranus and Gemini about what needs to change, what needs to fall off and fall away, and where Uranus and Gemini is giving you new realizations that can't be ignored. So again, it's a back into the frying pan where there's new popcorn blasts of choices to be made. But with Uranus squaring the Sun, it could feel like the choice is already made. You have to be adaptable. You have to go with it. This is where we're going to see more things falling away and changing in the workforce and in the job market, which is what Virgo rules. Skill sets need to be up-leveled and need to come online even more. There will be more announcements about how new technologies are being implemented into the workplace and into our daily environments. There could be more job losses, job titles and roles that are no longer relevant. They no longer have a place. And it's requiring us to not only be more adaptable, but to step into more of our own genius and brilliance around what to do next, because this is about following an unconventional path now, breaking free from those traditional expectations of what we thought work had to be, and to know that it can be so much more. You could have more freedom in a day. You could have more that you enjoy. Are you willing and ready to make those necessary changes and set yourself up for experiencing your daily life in a whole new way, which again is destabilizing, takes us out of these comfort zones, requires us to see things in a whole different light and to be ready to move with the sudden changes that Uranus in Gemini presents. And so here is the fourth transiting aspect in August that highlights what Uranus in Gemini is revolutionizing in our daily worlds and, of course, in the world at large. So that square to the Sun in Virgo occurs on August 24th. Then on August 25th, Venus enters Leo at 12:27 p.m. Eastern Time. And this is going to be a very active Venus in Leo, because just like what Mercury and the Sun have experienced during their transits in Leo, plus, of course, that Mars in Leo transit that happened earlier this year, now Venus is in the hot seat of facing her fears around being worthy, receiving love, being in her creative power, owning her self-worth, and fully embracing her divine connection to abundance. She's going to make that opposition to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius on August 27th. And this is where she has to look at the fear that's being presented. That fear is the portal and the gateway in order for her to uplevel and deeply transform a part of herself that she's had to face now for the first time in her life. So I feel that this Venus in Leo energy at the end of August is going to be significant, and it could bring up things that have been dormant, repressed, or hidden within you that now you need to face and you need to look at with that brutal honesty that, of course, Pluto requires. So we will be talking about that more towards the end of August. And then there's one more transit here that I want to highlight, and that occurs on August 28th when Uranus in Gemini sextiles Neptune retrograde in Aries at 1 degree 26 minutes. So not only is August bringing up these repetitive aspects with Uranus and Gemini, but it's all occurring between 1 and 2 degrees in your chart. 1 and 2 degrees of Gemini is a hot spot here of revolutionary changes, new awareness, unexpected choices, reversals, and switchbacks that Uranus keeps bringing to our attention. So if you have planets or points in the early degrees of Gemini, you're going to be feeling this a lot, because the conjunction intensifies the erratic nature of Uranus. There's a restlessness here where you want to break free and understand what's possible, what's next. The Gemini energy is naturally curious, loves variety and choices, and how about this and how about that, and is focused on those short-term experiences that are interesting and exciting. Well, this can be amplified with Uranus and Gemini, especially in August. And so you want to stay mindful of what you say, what you're thinking, how your body is processing this energy. You might realize, I need to be walking every day, or I need to be in movement every day, because my mind has so much going on that if I move it through the body, it's going to help me breathe. It's going to help me ground in and move with the energy instead of feeling it spinning and circling in my mind. So strong Uranus in Gemini means that we need more movement this month, especially active movement. And you might find that your throat chakra and your third eye chakra are being newly aligned, that you're getting more downloads, understandings, wisdom, breakthrough moments, watershed moments that August is gifting you with as part of honoring your own ascension journey right now.